Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Government House, Yarralumla. My name is Paul Singer and I'm the Governor-General's Official Secretary. As this badge signifies, with its cross quills, I'm also Secretary of the Order of Australia, whose Council recommends appointments and awards in the Order's General Division to the Governor-General, who is Chancellor of the Order of Australia and Principal Knight of the Order. I'm also Secretary to the Australian Bravery Decorations Council, the body which makes recommendations to the Governor-General for bravery awards. I'd like to particularly acknowledge among our distinguished guests here this morning, General Angus Campbell, Chief of Defence Force, Rear Admiral Michael Rothwell, representing the Chief of Navy, Brigadier Richard Vagg, representing the Chief of Army, Air Vice Marshal Lee Gordon, representing the Chief of Air Force, the Honourable Shane Stone, Chairman of the Council for the Order of Australia, and Mrs Josephine Stone, Chief Officer Mark Brown, representing the Commissioner of the ACT Emergency Services Agency, Ms Mary Wiley-Smith, representing the Commissioner of the Australian Public Service Commission, Dr Martin Hess, National President of the Bravery Institute of Australia, Mr Peter White, representing the President of the Australian Bravery Association, Professor Matthew Vardas, Member of the Council for the Order of Australia, and Mrs Patricia Keller, representing the ACT Branch Chair of the Order of Australia Association. Ladies and gentlemen, the Australian Honours System provides a wonderful mechanism through which we as a nation can recognise and celebrate ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Since its inception in 1975, almost 400,000 people have been recognised for their meritorious, bravery, military or national service. The Order of Australia is the principal means of recognising outstanding service, and it's important to note that nominations come from all areas of the community. Anyone can and is encouraged to nominate. Today is a special day, not only for the recipients, but also for their families, friends and the communities. It is a day when we celebrate a diverse range of impressive achievements and service. As staff at Government House, my colleagues and I are privileged to play a small part in the recognition and celebration of that achievement. I hope we can help make today an occasion that you'll all recall with pride for a long time to come. Shortly, I'll invite you to stand as Their Excellencies the Governor-General and Lady Cosgrove enter the room. Please remain standing for the singing of the first verse of the National Anthem. You're all encouraged to join and participate, and the words are on page 3 of your program. The investiture will then begin and proceed in the order listed in your programs. After I read their names and citations, the recipients will enter the room from the doorway on my right, and after they've been invested, will leave by the central aisle to take their seats at the back of the room. At this point, you may like to show your appreciation with a short applause as each recipient leaves the room. At the conclusion of the investiture ceremony, the Governor-General will say a few words. He'll then leave the room and I'll invite recipients to join him and Lady Cosgrove in a formal photograph at the State Entrance stairs. As the recipients and Their Excellencies are departing the room, I invite remaining guests to remain seated to assist with the movement of recipients. Following the formal photograph, Their Excellencies and the recipients will join you all after the photographs in the dining room for refreshments. So ladies and gentlemen, please relax and enjoy the morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of Her Excellencies the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia and Lady Cosgrove. the insignia of her appointment as a companion in the General Division, Mrs. Pauline Candor, for eminent service to the community through humanitarian, philanthropic and fundraising endeavours, to social inclusion and to Australia-Japan relations. Mrs. Candor is an exceptional Australian who has made significant philanthropic contributions in a range of fields, from arts and culture to community development, health, medical research and education. In particular, she's been a staunch supporter of the most vulnerable and marginalised groups in our society and has supported programs that promote improved social cohesion. She's also been a vital link in strengthening of the Australia-Japan relationship through the collection, promotion and exhibition of Japanese art. The reach and effects of Mrs. Candor's endeavours are both enduring and profound, and she is thoroughly deserving of our recognition and appreciation. Mrs. Pauline Candor, appointed a Companion of the Order.
Thanks, Mark, for the spot. Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Very nervous.
Very
nervous.
It doesn't show.
Oh, it does, I can tell you.
Here we go, face this way. Now, somebody's always got to go first, and you're it today. You and your husband co-founded the Candor Philanthropy Fund in 1978, a long time ago, and in that intervening period you have been so busy. You have been either a chairperson or a contributor or an office bearer in some other way in 20 or so, and that's probably an underestimate of worthy causes and entities, most of them not-for-profit. It ranges, of course, through health and through into the arts, and you've not only done that in a way which has just boosted all of those entities into a very healthy place, but it's been ongoing. One of the most generous families, and you, the matriarch of the family, get all the credit. One of the most philanthropic families in the nation. And what's more, you've been recognised in Australia before, but in particular interest is you've got an association with Japan. And I think you've got several high awards from the Japanese government, from the palace. I wrote to the Emperor this morning, not about you, but to congratulate him on his accession to the throne and ask that he might come to Australia as soon as possible as a visitor. And maybe you can renew your acquaintance with him. So congratulations, you've just received Australia's highest honour.
Thank you very much.
Appointed a Companion in the General Division, Emeritus Professor Richard Larkins, for eminent service to medicine and medical research, to education through academic leadership, to public health care and to the community. Professor Larkins has been an outstanding advocate in taking his skills, knowledge and expertise and putting them to work practically and academically for the good of all. He is a preeminent researcher in the field of endocrinology and has advanced our understanding of diabetes and the endocrine disease. He has provided exemplary research and teaching standards in medical education and has exemplified specialist medical practice and training at the highest level. Professor Larkins' accomplishments, achievements with professional healthcare organisations and his dedication to higher education have been extensive. Australia is deeply indebted to him. Emeritus Professor Richard Larkins, appointed a Companion of the Order.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good. I think you were made AO in 2002, so this elevation is a testament to the fact that your wonderful life of contributing to the community has continued apace. I think you're still Chancellor of Retd?
Just finished that.
Just now finished? Okay. But you had a very long career as Professor and Dean of Medicine at Melbourne University, obviously one of the leading universities in the world. You were Vice-Chancellor of Monash yourself at one stage. But I heard endocrinology, but you were also deeply involved with the Stroke Foundation at one stage.
Yes, indeed.
And beyond that, I'm pretty sure the Comprehensive Cancer Research Centre. What a storied life, and it continues on, and we're delighted you're here to receive Australia's top award.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Appointed a companion in a general division, Professor Katherine North, for eminent service to genomic medicine nationally and internationally, to medical research in the fields of genetics, neurology and child health, and as a mentor and role model. Professor North is one of our most influential physician scientists who has worked diligently to establish Australia as a global leader in genomic medicine. For over 25 years, she has contributed significantly to improving the health of Australians by ensuring our medical research sector is sustainable and remains at the forefront of innovation. She continues to shape the future of clinical practice, setting new standards for healthcare delivery, improving diagnosis, and through the mentoring of young researchers. Professor North's record of academic excellence and her national and international contributions make her a true pioneer in the field of genomics. Professor Katherine North appointed a companion of the Order.
Good morning, good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
That looks good.
Gorgeous.
Now you were AM and made a... don't go away. I want to be in the photo. You were given an AM in 2012, so your community work is just accelerating rapidly from there. You are still the Executive Director of the Murdoch Children's Research Centre, one of the top institutes of research into things that affect our children in the world. And it's, I've had the honour of visiting there. It was a wonderful time to visit. But your work in genomics, you're in the Global Alliance for Genomics. Are you the vice chair of that organisation? And your contribution in so many both leadership and research ways is second to none. And that's why you've been given Australia's top honour. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Appointed a companion in the General Division, the late Mr Lloyd Perrin, to be accepted by his son, Mr Paul Perrin, for eminent service to the community through philanthropic contributions to a range of charitable organisations and to the commercial property sector. Mr Perrin was a quiet, achieving Australian, accomplishing much from humble beginnings. He was a smart, hard-working, forward-thinking leader and team player who led by example and was always looking for new ways to give back. He was a stalwart of the business community in Western Australia for many years and observed the highest practices through his integrity and consistency. Additionally, he generously channeled the financial fruits of his successful group of businesses into unheralded philanthropic acts. Australia benefited enormously from Mr Perrin's service, innovation and generosity. Mr Paul Perrin accepts the appointment of a companion of the Order on behalf of his late father, Mr Lloyd Perrin.
Good morning, how are you?
Yeah, well, thank you.
Are you Western Australian based too?
Yes, I am.
So you've come a long way. Here we go. Hang on to that for us. Here we are. Well done. Now, without dropping it, come around here. I would be dreading dropping any of those bits and pieces.
I'm holding tight.
How long ago did your father pass?
November.
So yeah, we're sad that he's not here to receive this in person.
I was aware that he was getting it.
Huh? Well, the Stan Perrin Charitable Trust, established years and years ago, he founded it. He was also a member of Rotary at Belmont for over 50 years.
Yes.
And I think in terms of the way the community regarded him, he's had 8 or 9 separate awards. One of them was he was the WA Businessman of the Year in 2015. And that probably underpins his ability to drive so many worthy causes, personal donations and galvanising others. He sounds like a mighty man, and he'll be sadly missed.
Definitely.
So Thank you very much, and we'll hope you can show all your your other relatives what we've given him.
Thank you.
All the best.
Appointed an officer in the General Division, Professor Sandra Harding, for distinguished service to education at the national and international level and to the community of Queensland. Professor Harding has been a shining light in the higher education sector in Australia. As Vice-Chancellor and President of James Cook University, her exemplary professional capabilities, ethical standards and finely honed leadership and management skills have significantly contributed to the university's development and reputation. Similarly, her commitment to education at the national and international level and her advocacy for reconciliation with Australia's First Peoples has been central to her work ethic. Professor Harding is an exceptional role model who has served her institution superbly, her community capably and her country proudly. Professor Sandra Harding, appointed an Officer of the Order.
Good to see you again.
Lovely to see you too.
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Now, you've been the Vice-Chancellor and President at James Cook University since 2007, I think. It's quite a while. We visited you a few times over the last several years. But you had a very long career at QUT. You were a Professor, a Dean, a Deputy Vice-Chancellor, all at QUT. And so you've got this wonderful recent history in higher education. But beyond that, that would itself be so meritorious and influential. But you are on 33 other bodies, and they range anywhere from health, education, security, international relations, and they're both state and government entities. How's that? Not bad. Of all of the ones that you're there, I just thought of a football coach analogy. A football coach would say about you, Sandra, that she's got a big motor. And then I thought, well, you are a director of the North Queensland Cowboys amongst all that. How are they going?
Oh, we've had better years.
Better years.
Well, it'll get better. It'll get better.
This will inspire them to great things.
Thank you very much,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Appointed an Officer in the Military Division, Major General Stephen Porter, for distinguished service to the Australian Army and transformation of the Army Reserve through his significant contribution as the Commander, 2nd Division. General Porter has provided distinguished service to the nation by leading and delivering a more capable and better trained Army Reserve to meet the operational challenges of the future. His dedication and commitment to advancing the Army Reserve as an essential component of the Army's total force has resulted in lasting benefits for the nation. General Porter is an exemplar of the highest ideals of the service and reflects the finest traditions of the Australian Army and our Defence Force. Major General Stephen Porter, appointed an Officer of the Order.
Nice, leave it. That's good. There we go. You came into the Army in about 1980, I think, Stephen, and then you came to 1RAR as a brand new subaltern in 1984 and bumped into me. But it's for your subsequent career. You received the AM for your services as the Assistant Commander of the 2nd Division, and that was in 2014, I think. But then in 15, you were promoted to 2-star and made Commander of the Army's 2nd Division, at a time when the Australian Army was running in 16 different directions, operationally heavily committed, and we needed more from the reservists, the many thousands of reservists that you had under your stewardship as the Divisional Commander. And you performed magnificently in helping mobilise as many reservists as possible, both to be good in their jobs back here in Australia, but to put into our deployed forces as necessary to fill gaps, to learn and to impart their own special brand of knowledge. So you thoroughly deserve this elevation to the rank of Officer of the Order of Australia. Congratulations, General.
Thank you very much.
All the best.
Appointed a member in the General Division, Ms Anne Martin, for significant service to the Indigenous community and to higher education. Ms Martin is an Indigenous elder and leader who has made a substantial contribution to Indigenous community development over 30 years. In her role as chairperson of NAIDOC, she is a key voice for the celebration of the achievements of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders across Australia. She's also been instrumental in establishing innovative education programs for Indigenous youth. Ms Martin has been an impressive advocate for the aspirations and advancement of First Nations people in Australia. Ms Anne Martin appointed a member of the Order.
Welcome. Congratulations. Now, you were Director of Education at the University of New South Wales, Director of Indigenous Education there, 91 to 99. And there's the project that I know that you're very close to your heart. Have I got it right? KARI?
Yes.
It's KARI. And that is foster homes for Indigenous kids, which is trying to keep them as closely as possible to their family, but also to their culture.
Yes.
And as I understand it, that's pretty much around Sydney. That's based.
Correct.
And has it sort of proliferated into other places in the state or is it unique to Sydney at the moment?
It's unique to Sydney, but it's a model that is looked at across the country as strengthening our families and keeping them together.
And this was, you were a founding person in this whole thing?
I'm a part of the board of
Yeah,
KARI with other family members who pay it forward.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. And recently you're given an honorary doctorate at that. Now, it was a World Indigenous Peoples Conference or Consortium,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes.
Yeah. So how long ago? That was in 17? No,
In
2017.
17, yes.
Yeah. In any way, today we recognise you for the work you have done and you will continue to do. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appointed a member in the General Division, Professor Paul Pavley, for significant service to medicine, to patient care, and as a researcher and mentor. Professor Pavley is a leading medical consultant and a highly respected member of the gastroenterological profession. He has displayed great dedication to furthering genetic research, particularly through improving treatment options and care for people with bowel disease. He's also been a tireless contributor to education and public advocacy, and is a superb role model for medical students. Professor Pavley is a quiet achiever who has made a major contribution to public health. Professor Paul Pavley appointed a member of the Order.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
There we go. Good, this way. Now, you are perhaps one of the leading lights in the Crohn's and Colitis Association in Australia. 75,000 members, a huge number of people, and they would be people affected by those diseases.
Mm.
Yeah. You are the senior gastroenterologist here in the ACT, and you're a teacher and an examiner.
Yep.
You've been associated with the ANU School of Health and Medicine for some years now, a long time.
Yep.
So in all respects, you are the sort of person who is a trainer, a physician in your own right, but the saviour of people's quality of life and sometimes extending their lives. We thank you very much for your service.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appointed a member in the Military Division, Colonel Andrew Abbott, for exceptional service as Commanding Officer, School of Armour and Chief of Staff, 1st Division Deployable Joint Force Headquarters. Colonel Abbott's leadership, rationalisation of resources and improvement in training has significantly enhanced our Army's warfighting capability. His introduction of an analytical approach to vehicle fleet management and instructor support requirements has proved invaluable. Colonel Abbott re-engineered the divisional headquarters structure and business processes, achieving improved resource management across a range of operational environments. Colonel Andrew Abbott appointed a member of the Order.
Andrew, how are you?
Yes, sir.
Well done. Come in here. You graduated about 93, or into the Army in 93, did you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Into Armoured Corps when you finished at the officer training. And at the School of Armour, so we've jumped forward a lot of years now, but at the School of Armour there was a very technical and large vehicle fleet, and you had to somehow arrive at a way of getting many more of those vehicles serviceable. And I think you brought it up from 60% to 100% or something of that order.
Yes.
Yeah, which is fabulous. And I think any military commander would say if you've got 100% of any of your pieces of equipment ready to go, well, that's a real big achievement. Now, but as commander of as Chief of Staff of the 1st Division, you're up to your eyebrows in all those disaster relief operations that the Army's been part of during your time as Chief of Staff there. I think there was something in New Guinea, certainly something in the South Pacific, and there was Op Hannah. What was Op Hannah?
That was the election support.
The elections in PNG, and we provided folks to assist in all of that. Well, you certainly have been very busy, and that's now been recognised. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, sir.
Cheers.
Appointed a member in the Military Division, Group Captain Stuart Bellingham, for exceptional service in Joint Air-Land Terminal Attack Systems development, support to operations and major airborne capability sustainment for the Australian Defence Force. Group Captain Bellingham has made a lasting contribution to the Australian Defence Force over several postings in a number of key areas of activity. Through his professionalism and devotion to duty, he has advanced development and training of Joint Air-Land Terminal Attack Systems and provided outstanding support to operations Okra, Parapet, Seville and Pacific Assist. Group Captain Bellingham has also advanced Australia's relationship with the United States Pacific Command and Space Operations Centre. Group Captain Stuart Bellingham appointed a member of the Order.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah, very fine. Now, you joined the Air Force in 1987?
87, Your Excellency.
Yeah. And you've had several tours of duty in the Middle East area of operations. And you got the Distinguished Service Cross for your command and leadership whilst you were in the, or for your service in the Middle East. And beyond that, I see you've also got the Conspicuous Service Cross. He's now got the trifecta. This is an indelible signal of an officer with huge potential to carry on in the service. And what's more, your stewardship of the introduction to service of the Wedge-tail capability, that's our airborne early warning aeroplane. We think it's the best in the world, justifiably. But all of those capabilities, when they first arrive, get teething problems, and you were right there, Johnny, on the spot to help solve those, so that it is now regarded as the best of its type in the world. Congratulations. Keep it up.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mrs Pauline Candor, for service to horticulture. Mrs Candor has displayed a strong commitment to building communities through her voluntary work. She's been an active and highly valued member of a number of gardening and horticultural groups. Mrs Candor played a vital role in assisting people to regenerate their gardens after Canberra's devastating bushfires in 2003. Mrs Pauline Candor awarded the Medal of the Order.
Yes, there. Thanks. Good to see you.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank
Here
you.
we are. Thank you. Now, you're still the president of the Canberra First Garden Club, aren't you?
I certainly am, yes.
And you broadcast Garden Gurus on 2CC?
Yes.
Still doing that?
Still doing that, yes.
Okay. All right. And we heard reference, you are associated with anybody who's got a garden club anywhere in the ACT or nearby, they know you.
Yeah.
And you know them. What wasn't said in that citation was you lost your home in the Canberra bushfires in '03.
Yes, that's right.
And you probably thought, yes, the home, and I bet you're somewhere else now. You've rebuilt.
We were, yes.
I bet it's got a beaut garden.
Well, yes. If it had a good horticulturist in it, it would be good.
I think we found one. Congratulations.
Thank you, Susan.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr Frederick Fork, for service to the community of Canberra. Mr Fork has been an outstanding volunteer and supporter of the community through his involvement with Rotary. His concern for those less fortunate and his capacity to give back to people in need, not only in his local area, but also around the South Pacific and Southeast Asia region, is commendable. Mr Fork has made a positive difference to the lives of many. Mr Frederick Fork awarded the Medal of the Order.
Hello there, how are you?
They didn't give us an X in the class for us.
There we go. Now, you've been in the Rotary Club of Belconnen for a very long time, and you've been president there, and you've also got an interest in Rotary Club Canberra Western Creek, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so did you get sort of double whammy from the Sergeant at Arms for anything? No?
Yeah, only by being the president of both clubs.
There we are, and I know. Now, you're also in District 9710.
Yes.
And that's the shelter box project. You've drawn that in from all the clubs.
Yes.
And the shelter boxes are where we refer to international stuff. You're sending your shelter boxes to places like East Timor, perhaps the Philippines, perhaps Fiji, when there are disasters and people need all the wherewithal.
Yes.
Yep. That's a marvellous thing. Rotary's been doing it for donkey's years now, but it's a wonderful program. But you're also involved with 7 other voluntary and community-based activities, so you're a very busy man.
Certainly am.
That's been recognised today. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mrs Jeanette Griffiths and Mr John Griffiths, for service to the community of the New South Wales South Coast. Mr and Mrs Griffiths have made a dedicated contribution to the cultural landscape of Narooma and the surrounding region since 2003. They have welcomed all to their much-loved and iconic heritage theatre and have hosted the screening of mainstream, independent and art house films, as well as a range of live shows and performances. Mr and Mrs Griffiths have brought life, variety and community to the Eurobodalla region. Mrs Jeanette and Mr John Griffiths awarded the Medal of the Order.
Good morning. Yeah, I'll get you to turn around in a moment, but we'll stay here for now. Hello, sir. How are you? Here we go. Shake hands there with you, and here we are. Try that. Looking there. Now, if you just sort of turn a little bit so they can see it. These folks operate the kinema at Narooma. 1928, this picture theatre, beautiful old place, started its life, but it fell on hard times. But you found it and rehabilitated it. About 05, was that about when you... And you restored it. And now it's back to its operating glory. And how many movies would you have shown in your time there? There you go. I didn't warn them. Is the answer lots?
Yeah. You do 15 a week, 6, 12 a week.
Yeah. So this was a labour of love, and you did it because it was there and it couldn't be allowed to just fall into full disrepair.
That's right.
And how long did it take you to get it back in operating order?
About 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Well, there it is now, and it's an adornment to the town, and you've become quite well known because of it, and you thoroughly deserve this award. Congratulations.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mrs Wendy Holman, for service to the community of Cummins. Mrs Holman has played an active role in the Cummins region for over 40 years. She's recognised as an avid supporter of sustainable towns, and as a local government representative, she's instigated new events, projects and enterprises that have provided economic and cultural benefits for her community. Mrs Holman's can-do attitude proves that one person rolling up their sleeves can truly make a difference. Mrs Wendy Holman awarded the Medal of the Order.
Hi, Wendy. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you too.
There we go.
Thank you. Tears in my eyes.
This lady's got tears in her eyes because her husband and I were in Vietnam together in the same platoon. So he's here somewhere. Where are you, Jeff?
Just over there.
How are you, mate? Good to see you. This lady is a dynamo. She's been on the Council of Lower Air for since 2010. She's involved in so many community-based groups, all of them in that region, to do with health, philanthropy, sport. Any sport?
A little bit,
A little bit of sport?
yes.
Any?
little bit.
Yeah. 7 or 8 groups. I counted them up, and they're legion. And out of all, you were the South Australian of the Year in what year?
2001.
Same year as I was doing something else. 2001, South Australian of the Year. I think you get the picture. She's a lady of boundless energy and with a heart as big as all outdoors, and she looks after people. And she's married to my friend.
Thank
All
you.
the best.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Larkins for service to community history. Colonel Larkins has provided excellent service to Australia, firstly through his distinguished military career and subsequently through the planning and execution of the Boer War Memorial Project here in Canberra. He's given countless voluntary hours to ensure the recognition and commemoration of those who served in this nation's very first war was realised. Colonel Larkins is most deserving of our thanks. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Larkins awarded the Medal of the Order.
Hey, Tony, how are you? Good to see you. Great. This man is the greatest pest in Canberra. More seriously, I mean, he's a Rotarian, but that makes him a champion anyway, but as one of the great protagonists for that wonderful memorial, which has been now inaugurated for a while, but it is one of the most evocative memorials you'll see in Australia, and on Anzac Avenue, which is replete with wonderful memorials. This one stands out. For those visiting, you should have a look before you leave Canberra. It's a marvellous thing. But it took years and years and years of people like you, but led by you in many cases, to batter down doors, to get support and, of course, financial support to enable the government eventually to chip in. And there it sits as a perpetual monument to those brave men and women who served, on both sides, of course, in the Boer War. And for all of that, we say thank you, and this is well deserved. Congratulations.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Dr. Robert Lachman for service to medicine. Dr. Lachman is one of those rare people who has contributed to the betterment of his community in a variety of ways. From his dedication as a medical practitioner in the fields of obstetrics and gynaecology to his role with the Royal Australian Army Medical Corps and subsequently as Director of Army Health, he has served with distinction. Additionally, Dr. Lachman's passion for military medical history has resulted in his authorship of several publications. Dr. Robert Lachman awarded the Medal of the Order.
Hello, good to see you again. Come forward a bit. Thank you. There we go. Now, you received the Conspicuous Service Medal for your service as the Senior Medical Officer in 11 Brigade.
That's correct,
up in North Queensland. and that's probably where we encountered each other mostly, but your Director of Army Health, as has been said, those history books were fascinating and necessary. A history of the doctors, Australian doctors or medical staff in World War I and at Gallipoli. Have I got it right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And these, I can recall seeing copies of these, and they are very scholarly works, but they read so attractively. These are the accounts of people who were mighty men and women, and well done you. And the other thing, of course, is that you've wrote a scholarly book on, I think, obstetrics and gynecology in surgery in third world countries. And what's prompted you to do that?
Well, I spent 7 years in Papua New Guinea. So.
That would do it. Yep. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr Luke Mangan, for service to tourism and hospitality industry. Mr Mangan is widely respected and highly respected for his accomplishments in the hospitality field, particularly as a leading chef and restaurateur. He is committed to mentoring and supporting young people in the industry through educational and excellence initiatives. He is also generously contributing of his time to a range of charitable organisations. Mr Mangan's dedication and desire to give back to the community is most commendable. Mr Luke Mangan awarded the Medal of the Order.
Here we go. Well met. How are you?
Good.
Look this way. Yeah. Now, this is a pretty familiar face to just about everybody here, I'm sure. Been on the television quite a bit. I think you've also authored 5 books, but you're a restaurateur of 21 restaurants, and they're obviously in Australia, but they're in Singapore and Japan. Have I left out any Asian countries?
Indonesia.
Indonesia, right? That wasn't what I read. Is that recent?
No, we've had that for a while.
Okay, we'll look it up. But the one that fascinated me was you've got restaurants on 5 cruise ships. So that's pretty good. But all of this success in your wonderful culinary skill, art, science, you offset with your philanthropic interests. You're a great supporter of the Starlight Foundation, of Camp Quality, of dystrophy, the research and relief of dystrophy, and of complex cancers, all of those. A person who, having had great public success, is mobilising so many other people by their espousal of these tremendous causes. Congratulations, Lee.
Thank you.
There we go.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Dr Holly Northam, for service to medicine through a range of roles. Dr Northam has been heavily involved in the provision of policy advice and technical expertise in increasing the role of organ donation and transplantation in Australia. She's also worked as a nurse and donor coordinator, and now as a lecturer of future nurses at the University of Canberra. Additionally, Dr Northam's research into organ and tissue donation has been of the highest order. Dr Holly Northam awarded the Medal of the Order.
Just to go a little further on the organ donation, I think you were instrumental in establishing or helping to establish the Australian Organ and Tissue Authority. Is that right?
I was part of some national committees at the time.
Yep. And also you've been doing that particularly in the ACT, but it's more of an executive role there. Is that right?
My work in the ACT has sort of been as a practitioner, but also working with Donor Families Australia and Share Love Australia and a range of consumer groups to build the capacity.
And of course, you yourself are highly qualified in the area of critical care nursing, and you are a teacher in that regard. And you're one of the angels that we hope to see amongst us frequently for this sort of recognition. Congratulations.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr Laurence Sams, for service to veterans and their families. Mr Sams has been resolute in devoting his time and energy to raise awareness of and funds for Defence Force personnel, both past and present, who have been injured or who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. To advance his cause, he has undertaken several marathon bicycle rides throughout Southeast Asia, and these journeys have been epics of courage and endurance. Mr Sam's ongoing commitment to supporting soldiers and veterans has been inspiring. Mr Laurence Sams awarded the Medal of the Order.
G'day, Truck. Good to see you again.
See you again, sir.
Turn this way. Back in 1995, Mr Sams was doing a tandem parachute jump, and there was a malfunction in the parachute, and he and the person that he was the expert, the other person was more of a novice, and it looked like both would be killed. Mr Sams rolled over in the descent and took the impact of the fall. The other man survived. Unfortunately, his leg was amputated, so you can understand that the citation speaks about incredible courage and stoicism and a determination second to none. What characterised his able-bodied service has been redoubled now that he has a disability which he has to overcome every time he does something like cycle from Vietnam to Australia, 10,000 kilometres of cycling. You're going to go across the United States as your next project?
Correct, sir.
On the bike, I trust.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. But you've also done 2 epic walks on the Thai-Burma Railroad because your dear dad was lost, was a prisoner of war of the Japanese in the Second World War. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to note and honour an heroic Australian. Well done, Truck.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Dr Margaret Shaw, for service to the international community of Indonesia through education programs. Dr Shaw is regarded as a leader in early childhood education, particularly for children and teachers in Indonesia. She's taught and supervised professional development courses for educators and has been steadfast in her support of children with special needs. Dr Shaw's work with the Indonesian government and NGOs has resulted in significant advances in education. Dr Margaret Shaw awarded the Medal of the Order.
Well, how are you? You well? That's good. Now, just stand there for a moment. You'd established the Sekolah Huku My School in Yogyakarta in 01, and this was a special needs school for local youngsters of special needs. Now, of course, in 05 you established a foundation to widen the program and to provide ongoing support. How's that going?
It's just growing and growing.
Fantastic,
We can hardly
fantastic.
keep up with it.
So this was something that you can imagine how this was embraced by the good people of that part of Indonesia. And you have had an interest in Indonesia before that and since. You're up there very frequently?
About 4 times a year.
4 times a year. Well, you're a secular saint. We admire you for it. Well done.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mr Laurence Stroud, for service to the tourism and hospitality industry. Mr Stroud, in a career spanning more than 40 years, has been responsible for much of the pioneering work that has made international tourism one of the pillars of Australia's economy today. He has played an active role in the policy environment, which has been vital to support the long-term growth of the sector. Mr Stroud is to be commended for a lifetime's contribution to our tourism and business events industry. Mr Laurence Stroud awarded the Medal of the Order.
There we go. Just in there. Just face me. Face me. There we go. Right, now. Now come around here. Just a bit. Thanks very much. This gentleman was the Commissioner and a board member at one stage of the Australian Tourist Commission back in the mid-70s, at a time when our tourist numbers were about 500,000, a little bit over. And just on his watch, that number zoomed up to 800,000. This man, with his revolutionary policies, his approach to invigorate this wonderful part of our culture and our economy, would be thrilled today that there's 8.8 million people expected this year as tourists. And it's a multi-billion, I think $40 billion industry. Now, that of itself underpins the sort of recognition that we give you today. But you're also a champion of fundraising for research into muscular dystrophy. And is there another medical condition that you also...
Muscular dystrophy keeps me busy.
Keeps you busy, I should think. In any event, what we've seen is a person who's got such a long history in leadership in Australia, still working, still fundraising, still doing a damn fine job. Well done.
Awarded the medal in the General Division, Mrs Nancy Tingly, for service to community health. Mrs Tingly's service to people affected by Parkinson's is exemplary. She's the founder of Painting with Parkinson's Art Therapy program in Canberra, the first such program in Australia, which has now spread nationally and internationally. Mrs Tingly's initiatives have been groundbreaking, and she has provided a new way to help and enrich the lives of people living with Parkinson's. Mrs Nancy Tingly, awarded the Medal of the Order.
Hello, how are you? There we go, give me your hand. There we go. Now come back, just round here a little bit. And all this started because your own husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
That's correct, 32 years ago.
And did you sort of fall upon this therapy, or was it something you'd read about? That this could help?
I've always been an artist.
Yeah.
And I needed some way that I could support my husband.
Yep.
And I thought the way to do it is to do some kind of art project with them.
Yep.
And it was just meant to be something to make their lives more cheerful.
Yep.
But in fact, then I realised there was something quite special happening with people with Parkinson's when they started to paint, and that sent me onto the art therapy angle.
But you've been now proselytising this, I think that's the word I could use, to international groups.
Absolutely. I'll be going to the World Parkinson Congress in July. It's another award, but to...
Not as good as this one. No, is it?
It's to advertise a book I've just written about the whole project.
And you made a film? You made a film?
We've made several films, yeah.
7 films?
Several.
Oh, okay. And where do they distribute it to? All the Parkinson's
Well, they come
associations?
up through our websites and anybody who wants them for particular programmes to learn how to start up new groups other places in the world.
You sound like a very determined and ingenious lady. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We move now to the Distinguished Service Decorations. Awarded the Distinguished Service Medal, Colonel Stephen Darcy, for distinguished leadership in warlike operations as the Commander of Task Group Taji 5 in Iraq from June 2017 to December 2017. Colonel Darcy skillfully led Task Group Taji to deliver training that enabled the Iraqi security forces to engage and defeat Daesh in the battles of Mosul and Tel Afar. Task Group Taji advised and assisted the North Baghdad Operations Command to significantly reduce the Daesh threat to the civilian population and the Iraqi security forces around the Taji military complex. Colonel Darcy ensured the most favourable operational conditions to protect his task group from potential threats. Colonel Stephen Darcy, awarded the Distinguished Service Medal.
How while you were there, you moved the focus from individual training of groups of soldiers in skills to more subunit and unit and formation training. So, and you're doing this with a combined force of Australians and New Zealanders and Brits and Singaporeans. So in all of that, you had to meld that force together and get them all on the same page. And then, of course, there was this training task. And these were people being pushed out the door after their training, almost directly in some cases into combat. So a case in point was I think the Iraqi 53rd Brigade left you and went to, what was their place where they battled it out with Daesh?
In Mosul, sir.
In Mosul, okay. And I think we've all read of the fighting around Mosul, and they went pretty well. They acquitted themselves very well. Also, I think while you were there, you took on forward air controller training for Iraqi army people, which meant they would be bringing in Allied strike aircraft onto targets. And that also went pretty well, better than a lot of people could have expected. And that's a great credit to you and your team.
Thanks, sir.
Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Awarded the Commendation for Distinguished Service, Major Edouard Cousins, for distinguished performance of duties in warlike operations as the Officer Commanding Training Company Kilo 1 of the Training Task Unit, Task Group Taji 5, while deployed on Operation Okra from May 2017 to December 2017. Major Cousins demonstrated leadership and devotion to duty as a training company commander. His most commendable efforts were essential to the success of the Task Group Taji 5's training of the Iraqi Army Brigades. Major Cousins' development and delivery of highly successful Iraqi forward air controller courses markedly increased the combat readiness and operational capability of the Iraqi Army and reinforced Australia's reputation as a committed coalition partner. Major Edouard Cousins awarded the Commendation for Distinguished Service.
G'day, how are you?
Well, thanks.
Now, the gentleman who came just before you was the boss, but you were there with your people actually doing the training.
That's right.
And you did it magnificently. And it must have been, I think, a little bit of a wrench when they were graduating and going out the gate and you're getting ready for the next lot to come in, wondering, well, how did we go? And you must have been so gratified when they excelled in what they did. So you're wearing this on behalf of yourself, of course, and the troops you led. And well done.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, Iraq would be thanking you too.
Awarded the Commendation for Distinguished Service, Group Captain Anthony Martin, for distinguished performance of duties in warlike operations whilst deployed as Commander Air Task Group 630 on Operation Okra from December 2015 until July 2016. Group Captain Martin distinguished himself in command during a period of sustained coalition pressure against Daesh. He identified a series of important considerations to defence leadership that drove changes to tactical planning, rules of engagement, targeting and sustainment that enhanced the effectiveness of the Air Task Group on Operation Okra. Through his devotion to duty, Group Captain Martin's performance reflects great credit upon himself and the Australian Defence Force. Group Captain Anthony Martin awarded the Commendation for Distinguished Service.
Here we go. Congratulations. So you were in charge of all of the Air Force assets that were over there and the people. Quite a large number of people, I think.
Yeah, around about 400, sir.
There you are. And they were in over 2 different nations and 3 different operating bases. Right. And while you were there and your folks were doing the job they were sent for, there was fighting at Aramadi and Fallujah. That is to set the scene that there was a lot of combat happening there, and during your time, Daesh took some mortal blows and were largely expelled from those places. That's a great credit to all involved and the pressure on your group to do good things, but to do them legally, accurately and in a measured way was part of your task. And you've done magnificently. Well done. Yeah.
And now to the Conspicuous Service decorations. Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Commodore Anthony Partridge, for outstanding devotion to duty as the Director General, Defence Force Recruiting. Commodore Partridge's service has been marked by leadership and commitment. His focus on diversity, communications and teamwork has led to major improvements in the way Defence Force recruiting functions. Commodore Partridge's innovative tailoring of recruitment programs has strongly contributed to the people capability of Australia's Defence Force. Commodore Anthony Partridge awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
There you go. Oh, got it this time. There we go. Now, you entered the Navy in 1988. You actually didn't come in through one of the service colleges. You came in as an engineer out of QUT, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. You want to see Professor Harding later on. She's down there, she's giving you a... but in particular, your efforts in recruiting, it really needed a big revision. Some attitudinal things to get people out of stovepipes, and you did wonderfully well with that, to a point now where I think you've doubled the female intake in your time. You've certainly got many more First Australians to come and sign up, and you've even got your Navy and your Air Force and your Army recruiters doing cross-selling. This was hard to believe in my day that they'd do that, but that's a fabulous thing. So somebody who's got potential but not quite the desire or the aptitudes for this particular job can be cross-sold on another job somewhere in the services. This is magnificent because we've got to make sure every wonderful Australian who seeks to be in the forces, if they can find a place, you're the guy for them. Well done, mate.
Thanks, Your Excellency.
Cheers.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Captain Mark Siwa, for outstanding achievement in the application of exceptional skills, judgment and dedication as the Commanding Officer of HMAS Newcastle while deployed on Operation Manitow from July to November 2017. Captain Siwa directly shaped operations in globally significant maritime areas during Operation Manitow. His leadership actively deterred narcotics smuggling as a major source of terrorism funding and also shaped combined maritime forces operations in the Middle East region. Captain Siwa's efforts have greatly enhanced Australia's reputation amongst partner nations. Captain Mark Siwa awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
Congratulations. On that operation in that area, talk about the Royal Australian Navy being in the shop window. You're one of a very large number of multinational ships from, your ship became the exemplar of how to do boarding operations. You did 11 boardings during your time, and during the course of one of those, in company with other law enforcement folk, the haul was 150 kilos of heroin with some enormous street value. And that was a hole in some criminals' budget, which we hope they appreciate. Yep. But in all of that, you achieved this reputation, and I think it's handed on from Australian ship to Australian ship, of being the go-to naval vessel for these police operations. And that's to your great credit and that of your ship's company. And the last snippet, as I remember, weren't you the first of our ships to have a major uninhabited aerial vehicle and a manned helicopter in your ship's flight at the same time.
First on operations, yeah.
That's a feather in the cap. That all went well?
It went superb, sir.
Both machines came home
Yeah,
in one piece?
didn't lose one.
Oh, good. Congratulations. Cheers.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Colonel Daniel Bennett, for outstanding achievement as a Senior Military Liaison Officer for Bor and Juba while deployed as a Commander of the Australian Contingent on Operation Aslan from November 2016 to August 2017. Colonel Bennett was responsible for commanding the Australian contingent supporting the United Nations mission in South Sudan for 9.5 months. He oversaw the seamless transition of the contingent from Bor to Juba and the relocation of the Australian staff into United Nations bases. Colonel Bennett's implementation of improved security and force protection measures and capability was exemplary. Colonel Daniel Bennett awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
Hello, how are you?
Well,
Come around here. The relocation, what sort of distances are involved?
About 200 kilometres.
And that was a road move?
Combination of road and air.
And you went on long range, but you frequently went on long range patrols with your people.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, what length was a long range patrol?
A couple of 100 kilometres, depending on which helicopter or road moves.
Yeah. And were the conditions pretty vile?
Quite concerning for the local population, so very, very much.
Yeah. How many Aussies did you have over there?
There was 23 of us in total,
Yep.
each working in different parts of the UN, and my international team was from all over the globe.
Okay. And you must have seen some horrible sights.
There were some quite compelling things.
Well, all of this comes together to say that you're a long way away from the embrace of the Army at large, but not out of mind, and that proves it. Well done.
Thanks so much.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Colonel Louise Martin, for outstanding achievement as a Commanding Officer of the 2nd General Health Battalion. Colonel Martin's foresight and pursuit of excellence have significantly improved the development and transformation of the combat health continuum. Her achievements have enabled the Army to benchmark its medical capabilities against civilian best practice. Colonel Martin has striven to increase organisational confidence in the professional standards of medical support in the military community. Colonel Louise Martin awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
Hello, Louise.
Good morning, Your Excellency.
There we go. You entered the Army in 1994, but not into the Medical Corps as a musician. You're in the Adelaide Army Band. And you changed over. I think Medical Corps are probably happy, and I think the musicians are probably sad. You got your hospital through a very rigorous preparation and assessment phase, so it is now rated at the same level as a regional trauma hospital in Australia. The first and only military hospital in the world to attract that rating. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very good. And you've also pushing hard on your surgical team that you would have standing by. They're trained to do this, to go all the way up to the combat zone, all the way up to where a casualty has been incurred, so presumably into very dangerous territory, to stabilise a patient before they can be moved out. And that is a capability that we haven't had in any abundance, because it means the medics themselves have to be spot on.
Yes, sir.
In their own survival training. Congratulations. You're a dynamo. Yeah.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Colonel Bladen Morris, for outstanding achievement in leadership, skills and application as the Commanding Officer of the 1st Signal Regiment. Colonel Morris's knowledge and command were influential in the regiment's cultural reform and the modernisation of the Expeditionary Deployable Joint Force Headquarters communication systems. Notably, Colonel Morris's development of battle management systems has vastly improved the Australian Defence Force's amphibious capability. Colonel Bladen Morris awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thanks, sir.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
When I saw this gentleman join the Army in 05, and he's a full colonel now, I thought this can't be right. But he came over to us from the British Army, and what a gain we've got. You've had tours of duty in Afghanistan and Iraq. What's the other place?
In the British Army, Northern Ireland, Sierra Leone.
Okay, righto. So, wealth of operational experience. At the Deployable Joint Force Headquarters, you are in charge of propagating digitisation in communications throughout all the units that respond to DGAFHQ and, of course, the headquarters itself. And your job's been compounded in difficulty by the new environment of the amphibious role that some of the Retd brigades have landed with. And you come up with some wonderful improvements in getting tactical line of sight over a seascape, which has always been a bugbear for everybody up until now. And so more power to you. So welcome again to our Army.
Thank you very much, sir.
And well done.
Thank you, sir.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross, Colonel Joanne Whittaker, for outstanding achievement as the Director of Land Command, Control and Communications Directorate, Systems and Integration Branch, Army Headquarters. Colonel Whittaker was a driving force behind the progression of numerous complex projects that underpin the ability of our Army to modernise its force. Her collaborative work across defence and industry has ensured the provision of an integrated approach to the delivery of land capability in a time characterised by generational technological change. Colonel Whittaker has brought great credit upon herself and the Australian Defence Force. Colonel Joanne Whittaker awarded the Conspicuous Service Cross.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks, sir.
Okay. I think they're doing this to tease me. This lady entered the Army in 1988, but as a medic. So now we see that what you've been doing, particularly recently, which I think is how you're being recognised today, is you're assisting the Chief of Army in digitising the Army, not just in the communication space, which is something we spoke about a moment or two ago with another person, but the digitisation of the whole force. So, of course, that relies heavily on communications. But the part that I was particularly taken with, you're also playing a hand in the new improved counters to chemical, biological, radiological and nuclear responses that we might have to make, heaven forbid. But you're doing it. Well done.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awarded the Conspicuous Service Medal, Major James Birchmore, for meritorious achievement in the development and implementation of mental health and suicide prevention initiatives for the Australian Defence Force. During his service in the Army, Major Birchmore demonstrated exceptional commitment to the planning, implementation and evaluation of mental health programs for Australian Defence Force members, particularly in the area of suicide prevention. His devotion to best practice outcomes has informed and improved policy, programs and systems. Through his efforts, Major Birchmore has made an enviable contribution to the quality of mental health care for those who serve our nation. Major James Birchmore awarded the Conspicuous Service Medal.
Hi, James. How are you? Good, thank you. Well done. So you joined the Army in about 2002, but as a psychiatrist?
That's right,
Psychologist, beg pardon. And you have had, I think, numerous visits to the Middle East area of operation, probably some protracted stays there, were you?
Yes, 3 times. Yeah.
3 times. And this whole issue of early identification and prevention of suicide is something that I think has overwhelmed the Defence Force in the last 10 years or so to understand that it's a vector within the Defence Force, and it's it can be if not eradicated, it can certainly be identified so much earlier. And I dare say now that you've been quite proud of some of the advances made.
Absolutely.
Yep. And of course, we hope that no person will ever do self-harm, but nonetheless, how many would have been helped without your work? We don't know. We hope never to find out.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
And now to the Meritorious Service Awards. Awarded the Public Service Medal, Ms Leilani Benjuda, for outstanding public service in promoting the inclusion of Indigenous heritage in Australia's cultural and foreign policies. Ms Benjuda has been an active proponent and champion of the heritage of Australia's First Nations people. She's provided dedicated service through a range of roles, including as a museum curator, as an advisor on economic governance in the Solomon Islands, and as a diplomat promoting gender and sports. Ms Benjuda's understanding of working with traditional owners and the importance of innovative approaches in promoting Indigenous heritage has enhanced the international understanding of modern Australia. Ms Leilani Benjuda, awarded the Public Service Medal.
Hello, Leilani. How are you? Congratulations. You've been in public service, or the public service, about 20 years, about 10 of them in the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. One of the things which was quite novel on your CV showed me that you were leading in the cultural part of our exhibition in Shanghai. How long ago was that?
2010.
Okay, yep. And but you've been doing a lot of work in the Torres Strait as the liaison officer there, and that again must be a very sensitive role. And do you visit or live up there when you're in that role?
Yes, yes. I live on Thursday Island.
Yep.
I manage our Australia Papua New Guinea Torres Strait Treaty.
Yep.
And I go across to the PNG treaty villages each year.
Yep. So there are routine visits anyway. Do you ever go to Moresby and talk to counterparts there?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. In any event, you are obviously highly regarded, and now we do too. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awarded the Public Service Medal, Mr Richard Richardson, for outstanding public service in the area of Indigenous policy and programs. Mr Richardson has dedicated his career of over 40 years to influencing all levels of government to better understand the needs of Indigenous Australians. He has worked across a broad range of program and policy areas, including land acquisitions, housing and infrastructure, and economic and community development. Mr Richardson's dedication to improving outcomes for our First Nations people is most noteworthy. Mr Richard Richardson, awarded the Public Service Medal.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you, Excellency.
Got it in one. 40 years. You don't look old enough.
I'm old.
Yeah, you're old. All right. Well, I'll take it. I'll take that. Yeah. But one of the things that your CV told me was that you do a lot of work in the Northern Territory.
Did a fair bit in Northern Territory, national role. But
national role. Yeah. Now, one of the things I wanted to remark upon is that you've taken it on as a personal mission to broadcast amongst First Australians the value and I guess the honour of working within the Australian Public Service. You want more of them to join.
absolutely.
How are you going with that?
I'd say a work in progress, but it's a privilege to work in the public sector and serve the people.
I bet if I ran around and found some First Australians who are relatively new, your fingerprints will be there somewhere.
I hope so. In a good way, I hope.
Yeah, in a good way. Well done and congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Yep.
Awarded the Australian Fire Service Medal, Mr Gregory Harmy, for distinguished service to ACT Fire and Rescue. Mr Harmy has demonstrated significant commitment to the citizens of Canberra throughout his more than 30-year career. He's been an active member of the ACT Fire and Rescue, serving in a number of leadership roles, and has been at the forefront of career, educational and promotional pathway development for our city's firefighters. Mr Harmy is a fine example of service above self. Mr Gregory Harmy awarded the Australian Fire Service Medal.
Well done.
Thank you.
Now it's good. Yep. Now, you've been in the fire service for a very long time. You were a station officer in 05?
Was?
Yep. But then I think during the ghastly bushfires in 09, you had to take your task force down there 3 separate occasions?
I did 3 occasions to Victoria, yes.
Yeah. And the other particular thing that shines through, you've got an abiding care for any injured firefighters, and whether they're injured in training or on an operational job, they're still injured, and you're looking after them. Well done.
Thank you very much. Sir.
We now come to the Australian Bravery Decorations. These awards honour those who, without pause, have placed the safety and lives of others before their own. They have selflessly braved the most dangerous conditions, and we are a stronger and safer nation because of them. Nominations are considered by the Australian Bravery Decorations Council, who then make recommendations to the Governor-General. Awarded the Commendation for Brave Conduct, Mr Grant Woodbridge. On the afternoon of 2nd of January 2013, Mr Grant Woodbridge was involved in the rescue of a man trapped in a burning car in Canberra in the Australian Capital Territory. Mr Woodbridge was driving along Selwood Drive in Canberra when a stolen vehicle sped through a give way sign and crashed into a Holden sedan. The driver of the stolen car van abandoned the vehicle and ran from the scene. Mr Woodbridge stopped his car and quickly headed towards the site of the collision. Grass had caught fire around the Holden sedan, and he could see that the driver had sustained leg injuries and was trapped. Despite the threat of gas fire, he reached in and unlocked the door. He undid the man's seatbelt and tried to free him, but was unable to get him out of the vehicle. Another motorist supplied Mr Woodbridge with a fire extinguisher, and he emptied the canister into the engine bay, but the flames persisted. With the danger still present, he went down to his own car and retrieved 2 doonas, with which he attempted to smother the flames in the engine bay. At this time, another motorist arrived on the scene. Disregarding the danger from the fire, he stayed with the trapped driver and supported his neck. The fire brigade arrived about 20 minutes later, extinguished the flames and evacuated the injured man from the damaged vehicle. He was taken by ambulance to hospital in a critical condition. The young driver of a stolen car later turned himself in to police. For his actions, Mr Grant Woodbridge is awarded the Commendation for Brave Conduct.
Just here. There you go.
Yeah, good.
There we go. We always, at our investitures, save mentions of the bravery by Australians till the last moment. We think it's a very appropriate way to summarise the sorts of performances, achievements, acts that are recognised today. We ask ourselves, what would we have done? That's always in everybody's mind. If it's not, it should be. If we encountered such a situation, what would we have done? Fumble for the mobile phone and call the fire brigade, an obvious one, but beyond that, would we have placed ourselves in the place of danger? There's a person trapped, helpless, and they need to be rescued. Would we have done that? Would we have accepted that risk because otherwise that person might die? And that's why it doesn't really matter that we know the full life performance of the person who performs the brave act. It's enough to know that at that crucial time, when others might have stood back, yourself and the other gentleman mentioned, did not hesitate. You went to apply such help as you could give. And you're a brave man, and we congratulate you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the presentations this morning, and I now invite the Governor-General to speak.
On which we meet the Ngunnawal people, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to elders from other communities who may be with us today. This ceremony today recognises those who, through great determination and commitment and often genius, have made an exceptional contribution to Australia. It is one of the great privileges any Governor-General might have to invest those being honoured. This will be my last investiture, and I shall miss it as one of the highlights of my time in the job. We get the chance, Lynn and I and the folks in the front row, to meet all of you and to learn more about your life and your achievements. So I say to you all, to each recipient, we offer our deepest congratulations, and with that goes our admiration and respect. Like everyone here and those at home watching the webcast, we're impressed and inspired by what you do. And I think we're reassured that our nation is in good hands and full of extraordinary people who go that extra mile, not for personal gain or self-promotion, but for others and for Australia. We as a nation are fortunate to benefit from your passion and your skills and your dedication, and it is obvious and fitting that you should be recognised by our honours system. I might remark that you now officially join a company of men and women who have similarly and previously been recognised, and their actions too enriched our community and our lives. You remain, because you always have been, but now even more so, you remain role models for future generations. You show them what's possible. You have a commitment to excellence and a commitment to your fellow citizens. And that's something that we revere and admire. And I've had the grandstand opportunity to see the pride on the faces of family and friends who are here today sharing the occasion. On behalf of all Australians, I thank you for your contribution. I want you to remember this as a day when your nation says to you, you are unique, you are exceptional. Congratulations and well done.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, anyone can nominate a fellow Australian. It's easy to do by accessing our online nomination form on the Governor-General's website. You never know, they may even receive an award at a ceremony similar to this in the future.